Beyond the Pelvis is hosted by Dr. Keneal Siegel, a pelvic floor PT and intuitive healer, and Laura Haraka, a somatic practitioner and breathwork facilitator. Each week, we explore alternative and holistic approaches to healing chronic pelvic pain and other painful or chronic conditions. Join us and other experts in mind, body, and spiritual healing as we discuss a wealth of modalities ranging from ancient practices to modern therapies that challenge the conventional Western model of treatment. Let's get right to it.
So welcome to another episode of Beyond the Pelvis, and I am really excited to introduce today Dan Buglio. Dan is an educator and coach who helps people eliminate chronic pain and other chronic ailments using a mind-body approach. And I just want to add that I'm extra excited to introduce Dan today, not only because he's just a great all around guy for all of the time and dedication that he gives to people and his listeners by creating these daily videos, but he was an integral part of my healing journey as well, where I was listening to his videos on a daily basis. And as a coach now, I still send my clients his videos to reinforce concepts that I am teaching. So I'm extremely grateful to have him here with us today. So welcome, Dan.
Awesome. And thank you for that. Love to know that I was able to help you out. Um, and I don't know if it's okay to mention it, Laura, but you did a success story on my channel sharing your story. And so that was really quite appreciated and really glad to have you share your story for my audience as well.
Thank you. Thank you. I was so happy to be able to share my story about pelvic pain.
Mhm.
So, if you could, can you just share a little bit more about yourself, who you are today, and what brought you into this space?
Well, what brought me into the space was 13 years of back pain and sciatica in my early 30s to, mid to late 40s. Of all things, I bent over to put on my underwear and threw my back out, whatever that belief system is in the world. I threw my back out doing something as benign as putting my underwear on. And that started 13 long years of you name it, getting medicalized, being told this, being told that. Um, Pain would go away a little bit, and then it would come back, and then it would go away, and then come back harder. Then it would stay. After a while in my journey, I ended up crooked. I was very twisted. My back was very much, my hips were out of alignment, which threw the spine off, which meant I had to curve back. My shoulders were off tilt. I was really out of whack, limping. I'd have to drive my 35, 40-minute commute to the office, get to the office, take my suit jacket off, close the door, and lay down on the floor to let my back kind of decompress because it hurt so much. And, you know, off and on, varying degrees of intensity, but for the most part, 13 years solid. So who am I today? I'm a coach, a trainer, a teacher. As you mentioned, I do daily videos that post to YouTube and Facebook. Recently started putting some effort into Instagram. And so I'm just doing my best to help as many people as I can. And as a result of that, I've got people funneling in and saying, "Hey, Dan, I want to join your program." So I do have a group coaching program. Um, but a long time of chronic pain is what brought me in it. I figured out Dr. Sarno, as you know of his name, about a year into my journey. But for 12 years, I made every mistake possible in implementing his concepts. Talk to your brain. Well, how the heck do I do that? Think psychologically. What does that mean? And how do you do it? And like all these things. But I was absolutely sold that that was what was going on for me because there was no injury, there's no car wreck, nothing significant. Um, First set of X-rays was just mild degeneration. I was like, this has to be it. But I still took another 12 years to get better. I don't want anybody to be fearful of that by saying, holy cow, if it took Dan 12 years, how long is it going to take me? I was going through this before the internet was really a big thing. right? I'd go to Barnes and Noble and looking up books or, meditations so the amount of information today is massive compared to when I was going through this. I've been chronic pain free for 14 years. So, I get a little bit of a twinge once in a while, but I know what it is, call it out, give it zero attention or fear, and it goes away. So, a little bit of background, but I love what I'm doing, love helping people. So, thank you.
Congratulations on being pain-free for so long. It
Chronic,
seems like
they say chronic pain free because there's a
chronic
difference.
pain-free. Right.
Ah,
Pain is a part of life. It comes and goes. But yes, thank you for differentiating chronic pain versus just the everyday pains. So it's been around the same amount of time that you have been chronic pain-free, then you experience pain.
yep.
About
Yeah, I've
10.
been in this about 25 years or so since my early 30s. I'm 58 now. And what I love to tell people is I feel better at 58 than I did in my mid 30s. Legitimately better now than I did when I was 35, for example.
Yeah. I'm curious, what was that transition like from the time when you were experiencing pain to now being someone who helps someone overcome chronic pelvic pain? Like, what happened in between that time that led you to become the coach you are today?
Well, I come from a marketing background. And so while I was in the middle of chronic pain, I was reading Sarno's book going, this is great information. I can teach this and make money doing this. And it was very much I want to come up with a big idea marketing wise. So I also sell other things on the internet. I sell commercial air cleaners for tobacco smoke removal. So I'll sell them to cigar shops, VFW halls, American Legions, the big air cleaners hanging from the ceiling. So I come from a marketing background and I was always like, this is brilliant stuff. And there's a lot of people helping others by selling ebooks or, courses and all that. But this was like when the internet was first coming around. And I had always wanted to do that. But at that point, I still had pain. And I'm like, well, I can't teach this stuff. I still have pain. What do I know? Right? I haven't figured it out yet. And then even once I was able to eliminate my pain, I couldn't explain how it happened. It wasn't like there was one specific tool or trick or, affirmation or something I did consistently to get rid of it. So I had no idea how to teach it. And so it took a while paying attention to, this world of TMS, mind body pain. And that's when like Facebook and YouTube and all those things started coming along. And I would learn and study. I've taken a course or two with Dr. Howard Schubner. I had another mentor that had his own program, and I became a certified coach in that. And then I ended up parting ways with that gentleman because just differences in our view on how things should be taught and handled. Um, so I had some starts and stops with coaching, trying to help people. And this gentleman who mentored me, he was like, "Oh, do high ticket, charge $5,000 to help somebody." It's like, okay, so nobody knew me, and nobody's got $5,000 to throw at a coach that they've never heard of before. And like, even if they liked me, they were like, "Well, I'm broke. I've spent all my money on medical bills." So that model didn't work. And at one point, I forget when it was, I don't know, 2017, 18, 19, somewhere in there. I was like, I'm quitting this. This isn't working. Right. And I literally just went back to the e-commerce business that I was running, but I couldn't stay away from it. I was still constantly on Facebook, reading, commenting, and at one point I went to a marketing conference and they were talking about content, publish, publish, publish. Right. In other words, do the videos, the social media posts. So just publish, publish. And so a buddy of mine said, Dan, why don't you just start with a week worth of Facebook Live videos and see what happens? Well, the end of March will be 5 years that I've been doing daily videos without missing a day. So I've got over 1,780 videos on my YouTube channel and growing. And so I've just made a commitment to stick with it. And once I got a certain amount in, I was like, there's no way I'm breaking this streak. It's kind of bragging rights. People are like, Dan, take a break. Well, we'll do okay. You got lots of videos we can watch. But I'm like, no, I got to do it every day because it's bragging rights. I can say I put out, free content. The cool part is that I have lots and lots and lots of people getting better just from the free daily videos, right? And not everybody is a client. Now, once I did the daily videos for about a year, my coaching business started to pick up. They started saying, Dan, do you coach? You don't mention it, but do you coach? And I started to fill up a one-on-one coaching schedule. After about 2 years, I had a waiting list of like 3 months for people to get into to talk to me on a one-on-one basis. So June, 2.5 years ago, I finally said, this is not sustainable. I can only do so many one-on-one calls, and I don't want to make people wait 3 months to talk to me. So I finally decided to launch a group program, and now I can handle infinitely more people all at once. And come to find out, the group is actually better than one-on-one calls. You get way more value, way more access to me. You can learn from the group, and you feel like you're not alone because you're hanging out with other people who are going through the same journey. So that's a long-winded way of saying I went from chronic pain to accidentally figuring out the things I teach now. And like I said, when I got pain-free, if you said, "What'd you do?" I don't know. It all kind of came together. I was less afraid. I was living my life more. I wasn't focused on it. I stopped identifying as the back pain guy. Neighbors always used to be, "Hey Dan, how's your back?" You know, and it was like family, friends, coworkers. How's your back? How's your back? How's your back? Yeah, I was a back pain guy. And so I had to disengage from that identity. And I guess just through, accidentally applying a number of things like living my life, not being the back pain guy, stop talking about it. Had to coach my wife and son and family and friends and neighbors. Don't ask me. We're not talking about this. And through all the things that, I recommend, accidentally came together. But again, I couldn't have put it on a list of this is what I did. So somehow I ended up pain-free. Was still terrified it was going to come back, but time went longer and longer and longer. And eventually I was like, wow, maybe I do have this done with. And here I am 14 years later, and there's not been anything chronic since. You have a very stressful, emotional time. I might get a little back pain, same location. Brain's got a memory, right? The subconscious does. But I know what it is. And I go, this makes sense. Look what's going on in my life. Like, for example, my mom had a stroke a year and a half ago. Hanging out with her at the hospital in the rehab and spending 30 hours a week with her, I got some back pain. I knew what it was, wasn't afraid of it, focused on mom. And within a week, it was gone. And it was never severe. It was nagging. But when you don't fuel pain with fear or a lot of attention, it doesn't become chronic. And in many cases, it doesn't get as intense.
You said so many important things. And the first thing I want to just recognize is how admirable it is that you have made it your mission to make these videos every day to help people. That's really an amazing feat to do. I know that I try to make some videos and I cannot I can't do it the same way you can. And the way you explain things in these videos, you're so well versed and giving people that confidence they could heal. So I'm just curious, what is the main thing? And I'm pretty sure I know already, but just for the listeners, your main concepts that you do teach that are kind of unique to you, because there's many coaches that help with chronic pain now, thankfully.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious, what makes you unique?
So the difference is that, many of the mind body chronic pain, chronic ailment, because it's not all about pain. There's a lot of other stuff going on. There's digestive, dizziness, you name it, autoimmune, all sorts of things. Um, the difference between me and most of that world, if you will, is that they're still focused on Dr. Sarno's original theory. This is an emotionally created phenomenon. The brain is protecting us against emotions, repressed emotions, primarily anger and rage. So there's a lot of this mind body space that's really focused on old traumas, Some therapy, but journaling, and let's get at these repressed emotions so that we can get better. And I do believe Sarno was right. The brain perceived those repressed emotions as they're bubbling up to the surface to be dangerous, and it created pain, in his words, to distract us from those emotions because the brain subconsciously said those emotions are not cool. They're not acceptable. They make me a bad person. They make me weak. They make me like my angry dad or whatever. So I think Sarno was absolutely right. But what I've done that I believe makes me different is that I've said, all right, emotions, Sarno, he's right. The perception of danger of emotions, he's right. But there's other stuff going on. What else is perceived as dangerous? Money problems, relationship stress, and yeah, those have emotions tied to them. Um, Body positions, movements. Some people who have a legitimate injury, it never heals. But it did heal. It's just that the brain learned to keep it going due to the amount of fear and attention given to the injury and how much it hurt. So there's an infinite number of ways that symptoms can come on. Now we've got this phenomenon called long COVID, and I believe that that may be a real thing medically, but I think a huge majority of that is mind body, the brain perceiving, oh my goodness, I not only got a virus, I got the virus, the pandemic virus. And for somebody who's already highly anxious, fearful about their health, and may have already experienced some health issues, maybe some TMS, perceived danger, you know, symptoms, getting the virus kind of tipped them over the edge. And now all of a sudden they've got a whole bunch of other symptoms and they go get medicalized and do the research and everybody's saying, "Oh my goodness, this is what long COVID is." Well, look at the long COVID list of symptoms. It correlates to the list of symptoms from TMS and, that the brain can create in this mind body way. So who's to say it was the virus? Maybe it was just the fear and, you know, the fear of COVID was big enough. But now the fear of long COVID is getting just as big because you hear it on the news and everything else, and you get COVID. Now, a highly sensitive person with TMS might go, what if I get long COVID? And before you know it, they start to catch the symptoms from other people's stories. So there's all sorts of things that the brain can perceive as dangerous. And the key is how it started months or years ago almost doesn't matter. Maybe it was a result of an emotionally chaotic time, divorce, death of a family member, pet died, loss of a job, whatever. Okay, a year or two later, what are you going to do with that? How is that going to help you get better today? So how I'm different is that I just recognize that Sarno's right, but overarching, the brain perceiving danger is the root cause of the symptoms persisting today. And so being afraid to get up out of bed and walk to the bathroom, being afraid to bend over, like me, bending over really hurt. Being afraid of going to take a walk or going to the grocery store, because the last time I did it, man, my symptoms went through the roof. And we minimize and we avoid and our life shrinks till we're bedbound. And but it's the perception of danger that's really driving this. And people will say, but I'm not consciously afraid. Okay. Subconscious is. The subconscious is retaining its right to protect Dan from bending over because the subconscious knew I had 13 years of acute onset back pain and spasms when I'd bend over. What do you think my brain did every time I'd bend over? Stop it. Pain. Right. So once we get the symptoms, we get medicalized. We're given diagnoses. We're looking at, MRIs through a fine-tooth comb, really evaluating things. And we become more and more fearful. So now laying in a bed is painful. Standing up is painful, doing all sorts of things. And so, again, I try to keep it as simple as possible. We don't have to go digging up our past traumas. I don't think I was in pain because of something that happened in third grade. I was in pain because I had a really stressful job, long commute, talking about having another baby, money problems, living in a rental, didn't have a home, financial worries. and I bent over and TMS said, ouch. And from there, I became the back pain guy, right? And so I didn't have to fix anything about the stressful life because 13 years later, my life was completely different. But we get medicalized. I mean, Laura, I know you did that. You went to countless doctors and spent, if I recall, hundreds of thousands of dollars on medical treatments all over the country, maybe all over the world, right? And so we take on this belief that, holy crap, I'm so broken, no doctors can even fix me. What does that create? Perceived danger, right? So I really keep it simple. I don't recommend people dig up the past, doing all this trauma work. Even if you had traumas, number one, I don't think I can safely recommend somebody go work on their traumas because I don't know what they're going to uncover. It's not up to me to tell them to go do that because I don't want to make things worse emotionally, mentally, by digging up old traumas. And then oftentimes that will cause them to feel worse physically because they're shaking up all those old traumas and reliving them, and that's danger. So symptoms can climb. So I don't believe we need to, right? Maybe there's a valid reason for trauma. Not debating that at all. Some people need to do that because their traumas were so, so challenging. But I don't think in order to get better from this mind body pain or other symptoms, I don't think we got to dig up the trauma. I just don't. Because even if you can find it, what do you do with it? We still have to teach ourselves that the trauma is not going on now and I'm safe now because that trauma was from decades ago or years ago or from my last relationship ago. It's not happening now. So I focus on if perceived danger is a problem, safety is a solution. What's the shortest line between danger and safety? And, my program is all about teaching yourself you're safe emotionally. Sarno, right? Because he said the brain perceives emotions as dangerous. Well, how do we teach the brain that emotions are safe? Not digging up the past, by actually feeling your right now emotions without judging yourself harshly for me getting angry and not going, oh, I'm a jerk like my dad. Just feel it without the judgment. Don't ruminate on the story behind it. Just allow it. And guess what? The emotions will pass. After a while, your brain will go, so these emotions I've been scared of all this time aren't really dangerous. And eventually, the brain will say, I don't need to trigger symptoms to protect Dan from emotions because he's feeling them all the time, even the intense stuff, and nothing bad's happening. The brain will learn that emotions are safe. So how about physically? I don't really recommend, a lot of physical work at all. I'm not going to give you stretches or yoga or breath work or all that stuff. I just really, and I know you do breath work, so not minimizing that for you, Laura, at all. But I believe if the subconscious is always monitoring what's going on, it's going to either perceive safety or danger. If you're tense and tight and you're breathing shallow, your subconscious brain has no choice but to say, there's something bad going on. We're in trouble. This is dangerous. Something dangerous is happening. So I simplify the whole physical safety aspect, not by teach yourself how to stand up straight when you got back pain. It's no, relax your body so that you can breathe comfortably. And when you're breathing comfortably in a relaxed body, your brain subconsciously has no choice but to perceive, oh, Dan's safe because look, he's relaxed. He's breathing comfortably. Danger, safety. Just an awareness of that and make it a habit and spend more time in the relaxed breathing comfortably. Because even breathing comfortably, like I do in the beginning of my videos, is a good way to get out of the stress response, is a good way to get out of the looping fearful thoughts that sometimes grab a hold of us and drag us through the mud all day, right? Because if you can just pause and allow yourself to relax and breathe, thinking slows down. And I did a video recently, rational thought has left the building. And it's all about that. It's like, when your symptoms are real high, we panic and our thinking just spirals off. Next thing is mental. How do you teach your brain that you're safe mentally? We don't have to stop our thoughts. We don't have to fix them because we got 70,000 thoughts a day. If you had to fix them, you'd be exhausted by like 7 a.m. But we don't have to believe our own negative thoughts. Not every thought that comes out of our own head is true or helpful. So I just don't buy into your own thinking. So you combine these things, allow yourself to feel emotions, relaxed body, comfortably breathing. Don't even believe your own thinking because oftentimes it's spinning in a panic. And if you're in that panic, relax your body and breathe until the rational thought can come back online. And then it's a matter of how do I respond to my symptoms? I have a catchphrase like nobody ever got better by freaking out. Laura, I'm sure you've heard me say that. Panic is not the answer because all that's doing is screaming to the brain, we're in danger. Don't you dare relax. We're in danger. Keep those sirens ringing. The sirens are the pain or the symptoms. So I talk a lot in my coaching, in my program, in my daily videos about responding as calmly with as much confidence and clarity as possible. I have this mindset of indifference concept I've been teaching for years. Indifference is looking at your symptoms and going, yeah, so what? They're there. And people are like, you're crazy. How can I not care? Right? And that's not available initially. I think that happens organically once you fundamentally know this is what causes symptoms. It applies to me, and consistently, calmly remind yourself when your symptoms are there or up that I'm okay. And eventually, indifference comes by you having this deep knowing that, holy cow, I'm really all right. Because TMS, perceived danger, pain, or other symptoms, by definition means your body's fine. Your brain's just turning on false alarms based on the perception, the misperception of danger. And so I think the more consistently we remind ourselves of that fact that we're actually okay, indifference happens organically on its own. You will eventually get to the point where you're like, yeah, I went out and I did this, this, and that. My symptoms were there, but you know what, Dan? I didn't care. And I hear that a lot in my coaching. It was there, but I didn't care. So the mindset is one of the things I talk about. The mindset that you're not really broken. Your brain just thinks you are, right? The mindset of indifference, the mindset of, I can do this, I'm okay. I mean, there's a lot that makes up mindset, but the mindset needs to lead the way. People are like, I'll have a good mindset when my pain goes away, then I'll believe it. It's not how it works. You know that, Laura. I'm sure you do too, Keneal. You just can't wait for symptoms terrified to leave, like terrifyingly waiting for symptoms to leave before you can go, oh, I guess I'm okay. The terror, the panic, the freak out, the rumination is what keeps them around. So I always say we have to think better than we feel. We have to really decide I'm okay because I've studied it, I've learned it, I've done the assessments, I know that I am okay, and that this is a false alarm. And when the mindset leads the way consistently, and that's a key phrase, consistently, the brain eventually goes, Laura's okay. Wow, look, Laura's really okay. Keneal's okay. I guess I guess I can calm down too. Subconscious brain says, I guess we're all right. So the mindset and the beliefs and the response to pain has to lead the way. One of the last features of my approach is start living more, stop fixing. Because I have a lot of people who are like, well, Dan, I've never stopped living. I'm like, okay, where's your safety? Or are you still angry, frustrated, in a panic, still believing your back's the problem? Living your life isn't a solution by itself. It's a component of the whole system. But when you can go out and say, I'm going to do this because I want to, and if symptoms come along, I know I'll be okay because I know with certainty what this is and that it applies to me. And so I don't have to be overly concerned. And you start to expand your world. And if you have the right mindset and you don't let fear tackle you and drag you down, over time, the brain goes, well, look at Laura. She's doing more and more and more. The world is expanding and we're no worse off. Okay. And so it's the whole thing. It's emotional, physical, mental safety. How do you respond to symptoms? It's the mindset stuff. It's the living your life stuff. But that's all based on the foundation of what causes symptoms, perceived danger. So when you combine all of these messages of safety and the various ways that we experience life, physically, mentally, emotionally, how we're responding to pain is consistently calm, starting to live your life gradually. I'm not saying go out and run a marathon tomorrow, but gradually living your life more, the mindset of I'm okay. I don't need to care when it goes away. I just did a video recently. Why impatience delays recovery? Because when you're impatient, what are you doing? You're telling the brain, I'm in trouble. We got to get rid of this now. Perceived danger. So I know it sounds like, oh my goodness, I have to feel safe in every aspect of my life. It sure helps because some people say, what's the affirmation I need to say to myself so that I can get better? It goes well beyond nervously and in a fearful way saying, I'm okay, I'm safe, I'm loved. Right? Because how many times have you seen people suggesting that? It's like, okay, but do you believe it? Is it authentic? I try to take it organically. How do I convince myself and my fearful brain that I'm actually safe? And emotionally, physically, mentally are the three ways that we experience the world. So if we can feel safer in those three ways that every human being on the planet experiences the world, emotionally, mentally, physically, doesn't it stand to reason that the symptoms are going to settle down because the brain's feeling safer in the ways that we experience life? So how is this different than other practitioners? I think it's just simplifying the concepts because there are many programs that really dig into all sorts of things, the trauma work and the inner child work and the breath work, the meditations, the journaling. I journaled myself into a depression over 6 months. Why? Because I kept on focusing on everything that's wrong with my life, past and present, and personality. Well, how was that teaching me I was safe? It wasn't. I was getting miserable. I kept doing it and kept doing it. So I don't have requirements like that. People are like, where's my checklist, Dan? What do I do? I don't have a checklist. I have a framework, safety, but that's not a daily checklist. And some programs, brain rewiring programs are like, do these 16 things every day, spend 2 hours a day doing it. If you don't do that, you're not going to get better. And some of these approaches are very rule-based. I'm like, no. Here's a good question to ask yourself. Is what I'm doing, thinking, or how I'm behaving conveying that I'm safe or, oh no, I'm in trouble? Simple question right there, cuts to the chase. Am I acting as if I'm safe or am I acting as if I'm desperate and, really in trouble? So I've been on a little rant here. So what questions do you have or how do you want to guide this conversation?
I was gonna say that both Laura and I, in combination, we do a bunch of different things or offer a bunch of different things. I am a physical therapist, but I
Okay.
also do yoga, I do meditation, I do breath work, I do sound healing, I do energy healing, I do lots of different things. And I know Laura does a bunch of different things either. And we both recognize that some things work well for some people, while other things don't work so well for, a certain group of people or
Sure.
individual people or persons. And we were wondering, like, who comes to you and who finds this helpful and who does not find it helpful?
So it's interesting. If I look at, the inflow and outflow of coaching clients in my group program, there are people who come in and stick with it and they participate. They show up in at least one group call a week, some several, um, and they embrace it and they like the simplicity of it. They don't like the structured approach of some of the other programs out there. And in many cases, they've done all that stuff. People saying, oh, I journaled for 2 years. I didn't get anywhere. Right. And all these things. So, uh, in some cases, I get the people who've tried everything, including all the mind body stuff. Um, and there's people who stick around and do very well and get better and love it. And they call each other, family member. Like that's my brother, that's my sister, we're family. I didn't name that, right? They're my group coaching members, but people are like, this is the pain for you family. So there's people who really embrace it. Now there's other people who join. I they'll cancel in a month and I look at the name and I go, that doesn't sound familiar. I've never seen them in a group coaching call. Then I look at the back end because I also have a course and I'll say, wow, they didn't even watch the course. Okay. So I don't know why. I always, when people cancel, I'll send an email. Hey, please give me some feedback. What worked, what didn't. And some people just come in. I think they get a high out of like, I'm doing something for myself. I joined that program, but then they don't show up. They don't participate. They don't consume the materials. They certainly don't implement anything. And then they're going to walk around going, yeah, Dan's thing didn't work for me. Right. And everybody's got clients like that. And, I can't chase them and persuade them. I encourage people to participate, to consume the materials. And then I also wish them well, like keep watching my daily videos because a lot of people are getting better just from that. So who comes to me? I think people who are open-minded. I rarely take people who've never heard of this mind-body reason for pain. Like I won't go into a fibromyalgia group on Facebook and put an advertisement there and convert people who have never heard of this stuff. And so somehow organically, a friend recommended or somebody turned them on to this stuff, or they stumbled upon a video through a YouTube recommendation, and they'll be like, "Oh, that sounds interesting. Maybe I should see what else he talks about." And usually the people who join my program have been watching me for a while. So the cool part is by the time they join, if they're the type who's going to participate, they're already on board with a lot of these concepts. So who's not for me? People who refuse to let go of the belief that they're broken. I'm different. How many times have you coached somebody that says, I'm different? I got a real problem, Dan. And I'm like, do you really? Oh, yeah, well, from my injury. I'm like, well, tell me about the injury. Well, my back started hurting. How'd you injure it? Car accident? You fall? Like, what happened? No, it just started hurting. And I'm like, so how is that an injury? That doesn't fit with the definition of injury that the rest of the world looks at. Injury means some traumatic impact to the body, right? And so, some people are very reluctant to let go of their belief that, I'm broken in some way. But I gently try to persuade them, sometimes, very directly try to confront their belief that I was injured or whatever. Um, and I will very quickly in coaching point out, you're still hanging on to the physical. Why are you still calling yourself, I have fibromyalgia or pudendal neuralgia? Or why are you using the medical labels once you've determined that it's a mind-body thing and not a body thing? Right. And so I discourage people to use medical labels once they've done the assessments. And the assessments I use are really driven by the type of questions that experts like Dr. Schubner use to see what are the characteristics of your symptoms. Is it behaving like the brain's creating it, or is it much different that, you know, if the body was creating it, the symptoms behave differently? You know what I mean? So I rely on the experts to help me formulate these assessments and how I help people figure out if they have TMS, perceived danger pain, or not. But once people know that, it's like, come on, get on board, let go of the medical labels because medical labels aren't accurate if your brain's creating it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes total sense. We can share these concepts with people, but ultimately they have to make the decision to buy into TMS at some point. And we can shed doubt where this is really a medical condition and help them come up with evidence that this is a mind body condition to help come over to this side, or I don't know what you want to call it. I don't like to call it the dark side. I actually call it
No,
the
it's
good
the
side,
light side. Yeah,
the light side, you
Glenda
know.
the Good Witch.
Yeah, come over to this side
Yeah,
because you've tried everything so far and that didn't work.
right.
But people have to actually put some of the time in and apply your concepts.
Mhm. Yeah, implementation is the make it or break it. Because people will be like, Dan, I've been studying this TMS stuff for years. It's not working for me. I'm like, well, okay. Once you understand the perception of danger and safety as a solution, how safe do you feel? I'm not. This TMS stuff's not working. Well, it just doesn't work by reading the book. I know many of the people can teach classes in this stuff, but how consistently are you creating credible evidence that I'm safe versus your brain incorrectly perceiving danger? Right. So for the people out there who are like, yeah, I've been aware of TMS for years and it's not working, but are you working it? Are you implementing? Are you accepting the fact that you're not really broken? And are you teaching your brain that? And people go, but how do you teach the subconscious? Through the conscious. It's your only option. We have to consciously show up consistently with clarity, knowing and not wavering too much, and consistently teaching ourselves I'm okay consciously, and eventually it goes down to the subconscious. And that's why I love the relax your body and breathe, because that goes directly to the subconscious. No words necessary. Relax and breathe. Your brain's going to go, huh, Dan must be okay. Look at his body posture. Look at his breath. It's just right. So that'll go direct. But I think consistent conscious thoughts work their way into the subconscious. But if you're freaking out today and calm and safe tomorrow, your brain's not going to buy it. Indifference, whatever, don't care. You can't fake that. It's got to be authentic. So I don't know. I don't know if that helps.
I think it's interesting. I just wanted to point out that you mentioned that some people will study or dive into the material and they can practically teach it themselves, but then they haven't done the work
Yep.
to
Yep.
implement it or to
Exactly.
integrate it into their lives. Those are the people that are not going to get better, not just with
Mhm.
this or your program, but literally with any program because they're just consuming and they're not actually doing.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's no different than somebody reading, health and dietary books, but not changing anything in their life. They're not working out. They're still eating the same junk food. You know, I don't care how well you can speak about the right thing to do. If you're not doing it, good luck getting fit and healthy.
Right.
Right? So it's the same thing. We got to do something with the material that we're learning. I think really just to focus on safety is the way to go. However you get there, different people may have different things. And the reason so many of the practices that you folks are teaching and applying with your clients works is because they feel safer. Meditation can work if people do that and feel safe. For me, I was one of those lunatics in my head going, I don't know, I'm not supposed to have thoughts, but I'm thinking it. I'm doing this wrong. And, as soon as I'd be done meditating for 20 or 30 minutes, I'd go, did it work? Ah, it didn't work. I still have back pain. What am I doing wrong? Let me go back to Barnes and Noble and look for meditation books and sit in the books and like, take notes and, well, okay, I should try this. And, then once the internet came around, I was like searching for guided meditations and I was stressing myself out trying to find the perfect meditation to relax. It was ridiculous, and so that's not implementation of teaching yourself you're safe. That's searching for the right tool in the toolbox to fix yourself. So, a thing I say often is, when you understand that I'm really not broken, why are we spending hours a day fixing ourselves? Watching every video, listening to every podcast, doing all this stuff to fix, 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 fix. And I say, well, how much time would you spend in the garage rebuilding the engine in your brand new car that's working perfectly? You wouldn't, because it's working. And so people are like, yeah, but my body's not working. Well, it is. It's just that the brain is operating on misinformation and fear. When the brain's operating on misinformation and fear, it's sounding the alarms. Check engine light keeps coming on. It's a computer problem. It's not a car problem. The computer is operating on misinformation and fueled by fear, it's going to keep those alarm signals on, called symptoms.
So I'm just curious
Hmm.
if you can talk a little bit about if you see clients with pelvic pain
For sure.
and if you see any kind of difference between those clients, the ones with pelvic pain and with other types of conditions.
So the answer is yes. I see plenty of people with pelvic pain. And ever since you did your success story, probably a couple of years ago, I continue to see people with pelvic pain, both male and female, bladder pain. which is in the same general body region. And they come in with all sorts of medical diagnoses like interstitial cystitis and pudendal neuralgia and hypertonic pelvic floor and all this stuff. And they're doing all of these treatments, the physical modalities. What's different about those folks from the other symptoms? Honestly, not that much. There's more of an emotional tie to that because, if your knee hurts, your knee hurts. If your pelvis hurts, boy, that affects your bodily functions. Going to the bathroom, it can certainly. It also affects your intimacy with your partner. And so that has a much stronger emotional weight to it, doesn't it? Because it's like, oh my goodness, I can't have sex with my husband. And he's getting frustrated. And so it really tends to not be physically any more difficult to get rid of, but because of the emotional charge to having pain in that area, there's a lot more fear, a lot more at stake. Like if I don't get this done, I might lose my partner, right? I can't have sex. What the hell? That's a huge part of many people's lives. So I think the difference is not that it's any more challenging to alleviate. It's just really getting on board to go, all right, I need to accept that those are the emotional charges around that body location. But the root cause is still the same, perceived danger. And the solution is still the same. Teach myself I'm safe. So yeah, there's both men and women experiencing this, but I don't think the solution's much different. I think it's just if that person can get on board with the facts that they're really not in danger and that things are operating well down there, and it's just fear. And people are terrified to pee or go number two and everything else, and they've got all sorts of challenges. Um, and they're like, well, how am I supposed to feel safe when every time I go to the bathroom, I hurt for 3 hours afterwards? And I'm like, well, did you sustain an injury in that body part? No. Okay, so what changed? Well, the doctor says I've got a compressed nerve. I'm like, okay, but how do we know that's what's causing it? And how do we know that's what turned on the pain years ago? Who knows? I mean, and I'm sure you folks know, relationship stress, drama, trauma, partially in a sexual way, can absolutely turn on these symptoms down there. And I believe that for many people, when they have, I'll say sexual trauma, it doesn't have to be abuse, rape, or anything that heavy, but sexual trauma, the brain can say that sex stuff isn't safe. So if I create pain in that location, they're going to stay away from that. Now, that's maybe going deep and looking for a reason or a message behind it. But I've seen that a number of times that the location of pain does relate to some fear surrounding sexual activity, and therefore that's why they have that. But then they go to the doctor and they say, wow, your pelvic floor is really tight. Why? Is the pelvic floor the problem? Or is that the result of a terrified brain protecting by tightening up the muscles? Yeah, but the tight muscles are pinching a nerve, and that's why I'm hurting. So let me work on the muscles. I don't know. How about working on the fear so that muscles can relax? So I really try as much as possible to go all the way upstream as opposed to, you know, um, dancing with the symptoms. That's my belief. But I don't believe it's any more challenging. I've got plenty of success stories that when you apply the overall safety messages, the brain can figure out the body location and take care of that as well. Not much different than back pain or migraines or digestive issues or anything. Uh, Same root cause, same solution. So I try not to differentiate and say, ooh, pelvic pain's worse and harder. And there's a lot of people who also have like facial pain, right? Trigeminal neuralgia and head pain or migraines. And it's like, oh, but it's in my head, so it's so much worse. I'm like, not really. I mean, it feels that way. And you can tell yourself that my symptoms are more difficult because it's in my face or it's in my pelvis. But all that story is doing is telling yourself, be afraid, be very afraid, because I'm different and my situation is worse. And nothing about that says I'm safe.
I equate the back pain, the chronic back pain, and finding on MRIs herniated discs with
Mhm.
pelvic floor, with finding
Exactly.
hypertonic pelvic floor. I am a pelvic floor physical therapist, and I have
I
lots
get
of people come in. My doctor said I have hypertonic pelvic floor, and I assess, and I'm like, well, it's not really though.
you've
Like,
got the benefit of both sides of this equation. It's like you understand the mind body and how you that by telling them you're not actually broken.
and then they leave feeling better, like, oh, actually, I felt so much better when I left. Like, all they needed to hear was that they
You're
weren't broken. Yeah, you're okay. Your pelvic floor is doing exactly what it needs to do. So, is
okay.
there anything else you'd like to share with our audience before we wrap this up? I mean, you've shared so much already.
Yeah, I mean, I've for the most part, I've kind of walked everybody through the program. So if anybody pays attention, takes notes, and implements from what we just talked about today, they can actually get better. But then again, same thing holds true with my daily videos. If you watch enough of them, you got the whole concept. For anybody new to this stuff, I kind of encapsulate everything that I talk about into what I call a fast start playlist. So if anybody wants to dig a little bit deeper into the concepts that I employ versus what some of the mind body or TMS coaches do, just go to dansfaststart.com. It's a series of about 15 videos that really cover my core concepts because with 1,800 videos, people are like, where do I start? Which ones should I watch? Okay, watch these. And that'll really give you a core foundation of what's going on. Third video talks about how do I know if this applies to me? And I point out the assessments where you can find them. So it's kind of formulaic. What causes the symptoms? Does it apply to me? Is there a cure? Yes. I know it. You folks know it. All your clients know it. And am I capable of doing this? And that's the one thing I'm going to really encourage people to accept because a lot of people will tell you, I'm too anxious. My symptoms are too bad, but I've got pelvic pain or I've got this or that. So I'm different. So I don't know if I can get better. And my answer to that is I've worked with human beings that were desperate, literally at their wits' end, and they've gotten better. And they were just as afraid, just as convinced they were broken, just as worried that they were too anxious or their symptoms were too severe to get better. And they did. So my take is if another human being can go from the deepest, darkest depths of despair to getting completely better, then you, Miss Anxious, can do it too, because you're a human being as well. And these concepts are not unique to one person, where one person will get better and the other one can't. The only reason you can't is if you decide in advance that I can't. And you fail to do the work because you're already so convinced you can't, right? How many times have you worked with a client and this is the end of their rope, right? They've tried everything else and they're desperately afraid that what if this doesn't work? Then I've got no choice. And they're so afraid of this not working that they don't even start. And I'm like, well, why wouldn't you start? Well, what if I'm disappointed? Folks, you're already disappointed. You got nothing to lose. This can only benefit you. So I don't know. That's a little last bit.
You've given us and the listeners so many different tools and a place where to start applying these tools. And I am extremely grateful for you being here today. I know Camille is too. And your listeners are very lucky that you're here to spread this message that they can heal from mind body conditions. So thank you for being here. We appreciate it.
Well, I'm honored to be here, and this is my way of kind of paying you back for doing a success story on my channel. Um, we work together here. We're not competitors. We are spreading the word all together. We're all working together. All we want is to just make sure that people get better, whether I
Absolutely.
get paid or not, whether your clients use my stuff to get better, home run, love it. Whether people watch my free stuff and get better, I love it. And I get comments all the time and emails and direct messages from people going, wow, I'm so much better. And what's really funny is in my success stories, I've got 62. We'll have 64 by the end of the weekend. Um, more than half have never paid me a dime. They've never been a member of my formal program. And I don't care. I love it, right? Because it's just proof. You don't have to pay me. And I have people going, oh, I can't afford you. I'm like, so implement. It's all there. It's all there. Do it. Because half the people who record success stories for me didn't pay me either.
Thank you. Well, hopefully someone will benefit. I'm sure someone will benefit, but they don't have to pay any of us. They can just go dive into all your free information
and your free information too.
If you'd like to leave us a message or ask a question, please check the show notes with the link so you can reach us directly, or email us at beyondthepelvis@gmail.com.